So the next case here, we have another surgical wedge biopsy shown here. And you can see there's an area of localized abnormality here. So if we go down to higher power, we can see that the architecture is largely maintained. So if I highlight out here, you can see the maintained alveolar walls, but we seem to have something filling the alveolar spaces. And then if we look at a little bit higher power, it appears to be these proliferating fibroblasts. And the fibroblasts have a very loose picture to them, and they almost have this mucopolysaccharide-rich appearance. And they seem to be plugging and filling up these alveolar spaces. And so we call these fibroblastic plugs, and they were previously described as Masson's bodies. And so important distinction is these are not, we don't call these fibroblastic foci. We reserve that term for usual interstitial pneumonia. While these are focal areas of fibroblast proliferation, we instead refer to these as fibroblastic plugs. And they tend to have this polypoid look to them. So if I just move it like this, you can kind of see that it has this kind of almost dumbbell-shaped appearance. And then it kind of expands out here, expands out here. And so we often describe there's these polypoid areas of loose fibroblastic proliferation that have a mucopolysaccharide-rich nature to them. And then in the interstitium, you do see some admixed inflammatory cell infiltrate as well. So this is a case of an organizing pneumonia. And this is one of the types of acute lung injury that you can get in the lung. And this can be response to many different causes, including infection, inflammatory conditions, radiation, connective tissue disease, and drug reaction. In cases where it's idiopathic, it's known as cryptogenic organizing pneumonia, or COP. An old term for this was bronchiolitis obliterans organizing pneumonia, or BOOP, but more recent literature just describes this as organizing pneumonia, or OP. In terms of pathology, we typically diagnose this as an organizing pneumonia pattern and then leave it to the clinicians to identify an underlying cause. And if no cause is identified, to characterize this as a cryptogenic organized pneumonia. There is a potential role for doing additional testing in some of these cases to look for potential fungal or acid-fast organisms that could be causing this, particularly if you see associated areas of granulomatous inflammation. An important point is also this can also occur secondary to obstruction and or secondary to an adjacent lesion. So if you see a small biopsy that only has a little bit of organizing pneumonia, but radiologically they're describing a solid mass, this could indicate perilesional sampling.